coming up with stories that she's had there. I'm like, I have no idea, dude. But I gotta go for sure here now.
Okay, there's speeding there quickly. Do you see me? Yes.
Yeah, a little bit more.
No.
Oh,
Go for it. Alright.
All right. Okay, team. So, tell me about your progress in the last couple of weeks.
All right, so our target was to send out the second and the third and the fourth touch. So what we started to send out was, right, we spoke about having our lead gen funnel being created. We got 350 leads, 250 warm and 100 cold leads.
Mhm.
We sent out the first touch. We showed it to you. It looked a lot of marketees kind of email that went out. So we
Mhm.
changed the email. It still went out from SendGrid, but it was more text and more personalized. So we sent a second touch out last
It was
week.
plain text, right?
Plain text.
Yeah.
The third touch, this was like this that went out. I will just show you that.
An example.
Here's our third touch that
Awesome.
went out this week on Wednesday or Thursday, I think. One of these days, Wednesday or Tuesday, I guess.
Tuesday, I think.
And we also created a one-pager marketing to be sent out to our clients
Awesome. That's right.
for
Mhm.
just kind of a high-level overview of what's going on.
Mhm.
And I'm opening up SendGrid as we speak to tell you as to what our opens have been. Get to that thingy.
So Mission Impossible. Okay, cool. How are the results? I guess from you're looking for the latest for the second
I'm looking
and
it up
third.
right now. Yeah. Give me one
Was
second.
it generally good?
It was
Better? Improvement.
the second email had a great improvement. It was like 30% open.
Okay, so that's
Even
double.
more than that because the tagline was pretty catchy. Are you drowning in paperwork? And
And
somehow
that's
that
not this one, right? Because that's
no,
weird.
that's not this one. This is the third. This is the
Oh,
third
sorry.
touch.
Okay,
Right.
got it.
Are you
Second.
drowning in
Okay,
paperwork?
second.
The second one was that
30% open.
Where is
Yeah, it still can be improved, but that's a
it?
big.
It definitely can be improved. Yes, I
So,
agree.
so I think it was 21% for the warm, emails the first time, and then 14 for the cold, right?
Yes.
And so this
You're right.
30% was for the warm or for the cold?
For the warm.
So from 21 to 30, right?
Yes, 21 to
Versus-
30. And even the cold went up a little bit at that point.
And do you have the metrics for the cold?
I don't. I'm looking it up right now. It's not
Okay.
letting me log in for some reason in NYU.
More importantly, did you get some responses this time around? Right?
No.
Not yet. I don't think we haven't sent out the demo as yet. The interactive demo is supposed to go out as the last touch on this
Yeah.
Monday. The demo has been created. It's running. It's functional at this point. So once we send that out, I think there'll be a better chance of getting results coming back to us. Was your expectation that we're going to get results back right away with these emails?
Well, some responses, yes, and because I think the funnel has multiple steps, and just getting some sort of demonstration of interest, whether or not it ultimately results in a phone call or a conversation or what have you, is always a good sign that that you're hitting the right people with the right message, and there's some sort of intent. So I guess it's good that you certainly have to improve on the top line metrics, which is getting people to open an email, which I think is still a bit challenging, with the goal of having 50 to 60%. I think is a good one to reach to. Again, it might take a while to kind of figure that out. But ultimately the idea is you're not really kind of looking for clicks. You're looking in this case, as we set up the goals, you're looking for responses.
Right.
Which is, again, it's fine. I think the important takeaway, I think for me, is trying to understand why there aren't responses. Which again, you could kind of analyze everything from content of the message to maybe the fact that it was sent by SendGrid is not resulting in delivery. I don't know if that's necessarily a problem, but I guess. Potentially the way the email shows up isn't necessarily that it's coming from your inbox, which shouldn't make too much a difference. Again, this is like the things that we'd have to kind of dig into. Usually it's that little side note, send via SendGrid.
Right.
From Lisa, but
Here's what it
via
looks like,
SendGrid.
see? This is what the email looks like. I was one of the recipient.
Mhm.
Does it say
Yeah.
SendGrid anywhere, or
At the
that's what I was
bottom,
trying to get
probably.
to.
I mean, the other things too is I probably, no, and you typically, I think, there's examples of this, but typically when a company sends something to your address, for example, and it depends where it is displayed in Gmail, but like, mailed by datadrivenemail.com, signed by, it basically means that it's like a third-party server versus a personal note. Now, again, some of these things might not matter as much. I think it's trying to like dig deeper. Finally, the audience, right, is things like audience or the time that you kind of sent it could potentially have an impact.
Right.
When, for example, was this set?
This was sent at 4 p.m. Eastern time.
Is that thinking about like the mindset of the child care centers and what kind of happens? Is that
I think that's
is
a
that
great
good
time. That's a great time because no parents are coming to pick them up. It's after nap is over, people are back from lunch, directors are back in their office. It's really a good time to send an email. It's a good time to check your email.
Got it. Are there other times that
Other times of the day, probably mid-morning, between say 10 and 11. It's another good time.
Yeah, and those are all good hypotheses, right?
We're trying not to send it on Friday, not to send it on Monday.
Yeah, and that's fine as well. It's easier response. The other thing, one thing that I'm already seeing is just referencing the name of their center. So basically, you make it personalized certainly with their first name, which is happening, which is good. The other one that I classically do is just the name of the company, to say how like we could do something for you is essentially the value prop, and not just how it can help. I think the other thing too is I think you've definitely cut down on the copy. I'd probably go maybe a little bit shorter, like the bullet points. I think specifically, but again, like some of these things, I'm trying to think like if you're not getting the behavior that you're expecting, like what could be big reasons for it? Because I think that's what we're searching for, is like something's off, and probably fixing a lot of smaller things will make an improvement, but what is it that you could do completely differently to generate a response, to make somebody want to hit their reply button?
Well, the next one we're having the demo, where they actually will hit the button and they'll be.
There's a call to
It'll
action.
So the call to action then is but it's independent of speaking with a human, right?
Yes, I mean it's automated, right? It's like you click on it, download the app, and play with it. So that's probably gonna have our
How do you
assumption is
download the app? Do you have to click the email on your mobile?
you can click
phone?
the email on the mobile, like click the link, and automatically it'll take you to iTunes to download the app. Basically.
And if you're on desktop though, which
If
is
you're
gonna
in
be
desktop, you
50% of
can.
people.
It tells you right there saying if you're in desktop, it still lets you go ahead and use the desktop version. If it lets you on a computer, it still lets you go in there like that way. But the experience is not so fancy. That's the only difference.
Got it. So why
We
do you
haven't
think
finished
so?
that piece as yet.
So it seems like, going back to like the original thing, so that could be good, right? Potentially, that's less involvement to, click on a button than to reply to somebody that I'm open for a conversation. Why do you think that? Because a lot of these are actually fairly qualified childcare centers, right?
Right. Part of what I think is going on is this was a very unusual last week. With the election.
Yes.
There was a big conference, an annual conference, NACI conference.
For childcare.
For childcare. It just could be that the directors are behind in getting to some of their emails.
Got it. Okay.
And so, and I don't know, I just feel like, we just finished with Halloween. It's just for a childcare program, there's been a lot going on in the last 10 days.
So our
And
goal
this
was
email was sent.
This,
Is this the day
Tuesday.
after the election, or
This
on
was the
election?
day after the election.
yeah,
So that's I think Wednesday, right? Yeah, Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yeah, that's a very good hypothesis. The thing is, people. So certainly more people saw the email. Like, you're seeing improvements, which is good. It's still like this is kind of like the big rock.
I just feel
It's
like people were like so emotional one way or the other that probably is taking a new step.
Yeah.
was not
Like, we had-
happening yet.
But we had multiple goals with this, right? I agreed we had the goal of making sure that people open the email, but we
Yeah.
also wanted to set up our process in play. Like, these are the
Right.
4 touches, this is how it would go through, and the demo would come in. So unless we get the process and we're not able to gonna replicate this thing going
Yeah.
forward. So
Adding-
that's why we
adding
didn't
new
care.
people to the
Yeah,
funnel.
adding new people to the funnel. That's why we only had a limited people, send it out and at least get the whole thing set up for the
Yeah.
time being. And then we'll figure out as to how we can improvise on it.
Uh-huh. And on your third touch, has that email been sent out?
Yes, this was
Oh,
the
sorry,
third
this
touch.
is the third email.
The last
I'm
one
wondering
we
if there's
demoed.
like a way, and this is kind of getting into tactical stuff, but like what if there was an email that is very short, like literally a few sentences short, where you're not actually talking about these value props, but you're talking about it on a high level. Hey, you talk about, problem the first line or two, and then you say, love to chat with you about a tool that, that makes it easy for, childcare centers to, manage, X, Y, and Z via a mobile app.
Uh-huh.
When is a good time to talk? Like something, very short, and then the other thing that you could do is, the classic kind of RE in front of the, subject line to give it, the sense that, this is a conversation that's already happened and I'm replying to it, even though they never responded. It's a small kind of like tactical thing that just,
Uh-huh.
Gets people's attention, but I'm just kind of like wondering here, like there's a lot of explanation in the email, and sometimes like it's better, to kind of capture them at the hook and the really like interesting point, and then let yourself explain later, than maybe give all the proof points.
So
Well, that's how I envisioned the 4th email.
Okay, cool.
Very short, here's the
That's what I was
demo,
asking.
let's go.
Mhm.
All right, let's talk.
I wonder, could you do that with an actual conversation? I mean, try with the demo. I think that's. I think as long as you're trying different things,
Uh-huh.
improving, doing the incremental improvements, but also doing like big changes that could lead to a significant impact, i.e., drive the desired behavior that you want. I think whatever it is, it's as long as you're doing that, I think you're in a good place, because you don't know, like clearly there's something is kind of missing. We don't yet know what it is, but
Mhm.
it's through testing and iteration that hopefully we'll get there.
Mhm.
And maybe it is that, hey, like the classic kind of, respond to me via email doesn't work. People would rather like actually see the demo. I don't know.
Yeah.
It could be that.
Do you
what
have,
what
do
we're
you-
trying to do is, I'm sorry, what we're trying to do is, I think best option would be like, of course, we can go through the campaign, and even if they don't call you back, our goal is to try and make it as much as a phone call driven as opposed to an in-person demo.
Yeah.
Because in-person demo is never gonna get us any kind of scalability ever. So if we can just get them to talk to us on the phone and
Yeah.
try out our demo, I think they'll be much better than.
And that's kind of the other thing, which is like the multi-channel approach, which is, they've seen an email maybe once or twice, maybe they've been busy both times. It could be a good time as well to start following up via a phone call, because all of a sudden you're going from a place where you're just doing a cold pitch to, I've actually contacted you about something, and there's actually a decent likelihood that you've seen it. So, hey, I'm
We're following up on the
calling,
emails.
whoever it is, well, not Lisa, but, Joanne, about an email I had sent.
Uh-huh.
And that kind of gives you a bit, the hook to have the conversation.
Right, and that's what I'm thinking,
Mhm.
after this 4th email goes out, wait a few days, start making some phone calls referencing the emails, and especially the last one. I'm wondering if you've had a chance to, test out the demo, if you have any questions about how it works,
Yeah, I'm wondering if you could do that actually after the third. So you have this third, which is now, right?
Uh-huh.
You're doing okay, so and the third one drives to the demo, right?
No, the fourth,
The
the last one,
fourth,
fourth
the
one.
fourth, the next
And
one
this-
for.
Okay, sorry, this is the third one. I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so you've got this one. Maybe do the phone calls just to kind of like mix it up a bit, so it's not like all emails and then a phone call, but it's kind of a mix.
Mhm.
Maybe do the phone call before.
I just feel like they might just say, no, it's not for me, and they won't really understand it because they haven't seen it open up. I don't want them to be making a misassumption about what this really looks like and what it
Yeah.
really is.
No, but I think what he's saying is, you know, you don't have to, it's like trial and error basically,
Mhm.
right? So which one
Yeah.
works? If we try a few phone calls,
Yeah, maybe
we
you
might
don't have
get
to
a
do the
no
whole
there.
list.
Okay.
It's
but we
just like
might get a
trying to
yes
gather,
there,
I
so we
think,
get to know
we're
which
trying to
one.
figure out, because
Uh-huh.
we're trying to figure out like
Like
how
testing the
these
theories.
Yeah,
people,
exactly.
how they want to be communicated with, and then what the right message is, right? And
Uh-huh,
the message
uh-huh.
could be, you know, and I think this is where I think you can lean on some of your expertise, Lisa, is the best way to even start the conversation, is maybe not talk about the tools, but, you know, I wanted to talk to you about like basically some of these like issues, you know, that we're having. I assume that, you know, in a sales conversation, like that's kind of the best way to even start that period, is to not talk about product and benefits, is to actually understand your audience and what they need.
Uh-huh.
And then, you know, maybe kind of the insight here is that the way that these child care centers frame the problem, or the way that we talk about the problem, is not the way that they see it.
Mhm.
And maybe these conversations are more, you know, I don't know, of a research type thing of what do I need to say on the call to even engage them and get them excited.
Mhm.
Because I think you have, you know, some of these things are kind of, you know, happening, right? But, you know, you say, you know, maybe I want to talk to you about getting a handle on, or what was the last tagline? That
Drowning in paperwork.
yeah, I want to, you know, talk to you about getting a handle on all this paperwork that you have to fill out for students. You know, is that something that, you know, you're struggling with, for
Mhm.
example, right? And then kind of put it on them, so that you're not the one, you know, just sitting and kind of pitching and talking about the product.
Mhm.
Or I don't know, you know, that might not be the right way, but I think somehow kind of figuring out on the call to figure out like the cadence of getting them to kind of to talk to you about their problems before you talk about, you know, the
Right.
product. Well, obviously giving them, you know, some high level overview
Right.
of what it is. And in that case, you know, it almost like, it doesn't necessarily matter if they've seen the product or if they buy into it. They're opening up about things that, you know, they're struggling with, and that gives you all the opportunity to position the product in the best way for them.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I
Uh-huh.
don't know. It's a big question, right? I'm not sure what the best way is, and that's why I think through this testing, every single piece of outreach, every email that we send, every phone call should have kind of the goal of, I'm going to try, you know, something different to see if that changes behavior, or if that facilitates the conversation that
Mhm.
hasn't yet happened, or the email that hasn't been responded to.
How much would you weigh it that way rather than world events and holidays and you
Yeah,
know,
I
a
mean,
week
honestly,
that's
like
been
with the
crazy?
election, that's a pretty big deal. So, you know, I'm sure a lot of people were thinking about other things the day after the election, so I think it's a valid hypothesis. You know, that said, I think probably, you know, by the 30 emails already sent out, right?
Yeah, that was the day after the election, right?
And maybe we should have just delayed it another day, but it's like, who knew?
Our
it
goal
would be-
was really to set the process going. I understand that.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
there'll be
fine.
so many variables. They'll always keep playing into these things.
Yeah,
There'll be
so like next
Halloween,
week, you know, if it is
Thanksgiving,
like,
it'll always be there.
so yeah, so I mean, all those things kind of in consideration, it's like, we're still, you know, definitely like would have expected several responses at this point. We've got to see, and we've got to get, you know,
None whatsoever.
we've got to always have some working hypothesis as to why this is not happening in the way that we want it, and some potential solution for resolving it. Whether or not that works doesn't matter as much, because it's an iterative process, and you
I
have to
think-
keep trying.
I mean, honestly, I think with this particular set of problems, with this particular election, and
Mhm.
the fact that these are people that work with families, many of whom are likely here in this country illegally,
Yeah.
I think that is really weighing heavily on some of these directors.
So what?
I mean,
so
from
actually-
what I'm gathering is
Hmm.
the schools are, you know, abuzz with this kind of concern. And that's more immediate than anything that's just.
So here's an interesting question, because we just discussed this with another company, in terms of like content strategy.
Mhm.
Is there a way that you can piggyback on that mindset and that prevalent theme to anchor your value proposition in it in some way? Basically piggybacking, if that's what people are thinking about, basically building on that idea and almost like angling your content from that perspective.
I mean, we can think about it.
Again, you know, it's a sensitive subject, so I wouldn't necessarily, you know, you've got to find a strong link behind why that ties into your product and what you're doing and why you're doing that outreach. But oftentimes, you know, when you ask yourself, what kind of content can I develop that will gain traction in the market, a lot of times it's what's happening with current events in the world, in a particular industry, or for a particular audience. You know, it's either that usually or like more evergreen stuff, which, you know, an email would just translate to a general like value prop. But having like that sort of hook could be used, you know, to your advantage, because, you know, there could be certain like aspects of the product that actually help alleviate that concern in some way. You know what I mean? And I don't know what that is. I'd have to kind of, you know, you're much closer to that than I am.
I mean, it's the communication component between the school and the parents would be enhanced.
Okay, I like that.
Assuming the parents want to now give you their email. And there are going to be parents that are going to say, no, thank you. I don't want to share any personal information with anybody else because of what's just happened politically.
And that was, so the platform would facilitate the communications.
They have to give us their email for them to be participating.
Otherwise, I forget, do the parents have an app?
The parents have to give you an email for them to participate.
Okay.
Even if you get an app, right, you need to sign up with an email to get the app on your phone.
Yeah.
Then you can connect with the...
Because there's the administrator app, right?
Right.
The management, but there isn't any...
there is a parent app.
There's a parent app,
Yeah.
okay.
The administrator, when they sign up kids, the parents, they will get the parent information, the children information, hook all of that together, but then it's up to the parent whether they want to use the app or they get the same information via email. It's completely up to them.
And they can opt out of saying, I don't want to participate, and that's fine. Other people in the class can participate. So it doesn't mean the school can't still do it. It just means that there may be parents now, given the state of what happened, that will say, no, thank you, I don't
That's fine.
want
I
to
mean, I think
participate.
as a value prop, though, you could probably say that, like, link kind of the, you know, the communication aspect, the ease of use, whether or not like parents sign up, I think are in the context of this, you know, cold email, that you're trying to anchor your product in something that's very important to people right now. I don't think, you know, you need to go that far to, you know, even worry if parents accept it or not.
I think schools are going to be wanting to look for ways to comfort parents, to connect with them, to help them feel tied into what's going on.
Got it. Okay.
So just as an FYI, I sent you a quick link just recently to the onboarding demo as to what it looks like if you were to sign up. And instead of kind of walking you through it, I left you a little bit up in the air to see what you would do if you were receiving an email from us, kind of stuff.
Okay, and is this in my inbox or?
Yeah, I mean it's at cc at whatever.
Cesare.com?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm not seeing it.
Just sent it, so it should be coming.
Could take a second. There we go.
Yeah. So if you look at it and you click on it, it simply.
Is this sent from your personal? No?
Yeah, I just sent it to you.
Okay.
From personal, yeah. What do you mean personal? It's my company email address.
Oh, it is. It is. I was just wondering, the formatting was a little weird here. How it
That's
showed.
weird. Yeah, I copy pasted it from another email.
Maybe, yeah. I was gonna say, because otherwise I thought you like
It should
pressed
be.
some sort of automated
No.
kind of thing. But okay, so start demo.
Okay.
So I've got to sign up.
Yeah, if you sign up, yeah.
So we've got to. Oh wait, which? Yeah, I guess it is 12:30. Okay, so I'll take a look at this in terms of next steps. So list building was another thing I was gonna.
We have that.
Did
We're
you
in the
buy the
process-
list or?
No, we're in the process of doing it. We bought, remember I told you we bought a couple lists, not buy, we have a couple lists that we have
Okay.
to scrape through. We're gonna use Bearing's help, another company on the
Yeah.
cohort.
They're
And we're
good.
gonna make sure that they're gonna help, they're helping us. We just have to give them the list. They're gonna help us scrape through it and give us emails that we can start sending things out to. In New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, we're gonna go state by state by state. We're
So you
supposed to
found
do
like
that.
actual websites
listings.
that have this stuff?
We have found PDFs of childcare center listings with names and all that stuff.
Perfect. Perfect.
So we're gonna go about doing that, and if worst case scenario we can get that, I also found the site that sells us childcare center email addresses, directors, and that is at least I only found like 5% bounces, so that wasn't bad at all. So
Yeah.
that's also a pretty good list that they gave us.
And how's the volume? Good? Hundreds,
Volume-
thousands?
Yeah, this is in thousands, yes. So we should be ready to get this process going after the demo goes out. There's two things, right? One is to get that process going with thousands going each week, like through the every
Yeah,
2
and
days.
taking the insights from this smaller process where
Uh-huh.
hopefully you've cracked some aspects of getting,
Some of it, yeah.
or
And
a lot of the
second is-
aspects of getting responses ultimately. So this is kind of your testing ground.
And I think we're on track, because it took a while to get the demo, the
Yeah,
self-serve
no, it's
demo
great.
up and running, so it's just.
You're almost
now
there.
done.
It'll happen. It's just it could be small, subtle things. It's as long as you're constantly pushing yourself to think like why didn't people respond? Because that leads me to think that whatever changes that you implement, whether it's changing from a demo to or changing from a reply to this email to a demo or whatever it is, like they have to be big changes. Small changes, incremental things won't help you. You have to try big hypotheses and see if that shifts behavior, because you're not getting what you want versus getting what you want and then just kind of optimizing reply rates and response rates. You're more kind of earlier.
Yeah, we need to really change to make
So
sure
always kind of come from that perspective. Oh, I really think it's X. If it's more out of your hands, it's post-election stuff. Then maybe write that next email off. But if the next email isn't showing that sort of reply rate that you're looking for, then try something more drastic.
phone calls and mix it up. and that kind of
Phone
stuff.
calls again, and just have that kind of list of things that you want to do. So
Okay.
add follow-up phone call and see how that goes. And again, you don't have to make 250 calls. Do a list of 20, enough to kind of give you a sense of like what are the themes that are coming up. Like what are people responding to well? Are they completely shutting off if I say this, versus if I take this approach, right? Will it will that work better?
Just one follow-up. Also, once the demo email goes out, should we, as we had previously spoke about, follow up with like subject matter information or no?
Say that again.
Should we follow up with subject matter information saying here's an overall video of our product, or here's administrative videos? You know how we planned on sending out videos of informational videos about the product? Should we continue doing that, or
I don't know. Like
calls
I'm more around like get them to talk. If the product's
Okay.
more complicated and they don't have time, hook into some sort of emotional need or something that they're thinking about, and just get them on the phone.
Okay.
Asking somebody. I don't know. You have to see, but my inclination is to like, if you can get them on the phone and then in a meeting, whatever it is, virtual meeting if it has to be, and you get them excited, then
What about webinars? Maybe host a webinar
could
for all of
be.
these guys?
yeah,
saying
and again,
here's
so that's a good kind of strategy. Like email them with like, hey, we're doing a webinar about this, thing. And I think we had Lisa talked about right? You doing that. The webinar strategy is something that has worked in the past. Maybe that's the kind of whole cold hook to all of these people, is get them onto that, because that also works.
So maybe email them with the demo. Here's a demo, or if you're interested, we'll do a webinar, or maybe a separate email. On the
I'd say
webinar.
keep it focused and never give people two options. If it's
Okay.
like webinars, stick to
Got
that.
That would be the next one.
Okay, so one after that. Okay.
I'd like to help administrators like you. I know this is a big area of concern. I mean, it could be about like the webinar could be increasing communication and this changing times or whatever it is.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Cool.
Awesome.
Thank you.
cool.
Thanks,
Good session.
Larry.
Thank you.
Good to see
Appreciate
you
it.
all
Yep.
as always. Your participation is 5 for 5. Highly commend
Thanks, guys.
as always.
Stop, start,
Yep.
cut, action.